All right, let's take a look at the cookie store. The cookie store is actually in a different module, Angular module, just like Angular resource is. So we need to reference a new module. So it is the Angular cookies module. And now we need to go download that from Angular. So I'm just going to come out here and get this Angular cookies file. And then let's just add it here. So now we have that referenced, and we need to go over to our app and also add it there to our module here. Okay, now we're ready to get going with our sample. So I've created this cookie store sample page, and I've already created the cookie store sample controller and referenced it here. So let's go ahead and check this out. We're going to create 3 buttons for putting things into a cookie, retrieving them, and removing them. Okay, so we have a button that's going to save the cookie, and it will pass in the event. The event is going to be on the scope. And then we will get the cookie and remove the cookie. So we have buttons for all 3 of those. So let's go create those in the controller. First of all, let's create a event on the scope. And then let's wire up those methods. So there is the save event to cookie. Notice that it takes in an event, and then we call cookieStore.put, and then we give it a key and a value. The key is the cookie name, and the value is the cookie value we want to store. So here we are just going to store the event object, and we are going to store it in a cookie named event. Okay, and then here we're going to retrieve the cookie. So we're just going to call cookieStore.get and pass in the name of the cookie we want to retrieve. And for this demo, I'm just going to log that cookie out to the console. And then the last method, the remove event cookie method, is just going to call cookieStore.remove and remove the event cookie by name. Oops, I named this one wrong. There we go. Uppercase that C. Okay, now let's go take a look at it. So we refresh here and then store the cookie. And then remember, when we stored that cookie, we are storing this event object here. So it's got an ID and a name, and that's what we're storing in the cookie. And now if I click Get Cookie, we're going to retrieve that cookie from the cookies and display it in the console log. There we go. So there's the object that was retrieved. If I click that a couple of times, you can see I can keep getting the cookie. But if I click remove and then try to get the cookie, notice it's undefined. So that's all there is to storing cookies, except that you should be aware there is no way to specify an expiration date currently with cookies in Angular. So if you need to do that, you'll need to use a third-party cookie library, and you can wrap that in your own service so that you can inject it just like you do the cookie store, and it can be injectable and testable. But if you don't need to specify an expiration date for your cookies, you can just use the built-in cookie store. Now, before we move on to the next module, let's just go into our app.js and remove this reference to the ngCookies module. We're not going to be using that in the future modules, and we don't want to have that cause problems by having that left over there.